Next guest today is married to a man who's Fury by name and nature, going by his boxing career. But behind world heavyweight champion Tyson is one very strong woman. His childhood sweetheart and now his wife, Paris, is often left to look after their 5 children on her own while he's away training for weeks on end. Welcome to the show, Paris. Lovely to see you. And it's so lovely seeing that love story between the two of you. So young when you met. How did you meet?
Yeah. We met at a wedding and we bumped into one another, and like an old auntie who's sort of a bit of a matchmaker in the family, she sort of bumped us into each other on purpose and was like, "Hi, this is my nephew, this is my niece, would you like to talk to one another?" And obviously Tyson looked about 30-year-old then, and I was 15, so I sort of scarpered the other way.
Because he said he was so tall, it didn't look his age, he didn't look 17 at all.
Well, he had a beard at like 14, full beard, 6'6", so he never ever looked his age. People when we was younger used to presume that he was my dad.
So you scuttled away, and then when did you meet up again and decide that, you know, that you were in love and he was the man for you?
Well, it was coming up to my 16th birthday and he come through because I was having a bit of a party. And when he come in, it was like, "Oh, it's you again." And then we obviously got to talking, and I don't know, something clicked then and there, because obviously, at being 16, I'd spoke to other boys, but never ever liked any of them. And then all of a sudden, Tyson come along and he was just the one for me.
16 years old, and you knew he was the one for you.
Oh, I did not know he was the one. I mean, the end of the line one. I actually thought he would be the first of a few, but it just never worked out that way.
But he didn't think you'd be first of a few, did he? Because what did he tell his mum?
No. He went straight back that day and he told his mum, "I've met the girl I'm going to marry." And then, like, a week later, when we actually went out, because we hadn't actually said we're boyfriend and girlfriend that day, a week later he said to his dad, "I've found the girl I'm going to marry." But he never told me this. I think I'd have ran and been a bit scared, but
So how long
a few
before
months
you
later,
got
I didn't
married?
have that opinion.
So how long before you got married, and what did you go on dates? What happened? How did it kind of move along?
Yeah, Tyson lived in Manchester. I used to live in Doncaster, which was in Yorkshire. There's about 100 mile between us, and literally every spare moment Tyson had, he'd drive through. And we'd go, like, on picnics, we'd go to the cinema, we'd go ice skating, we'd go for walks, just anything to sort of spend time together. And he'd come through and then he'd drive back at night, and then usually Saturday and Sunday he'd drive back through again and drive home again on Sunday night. And that was our weekends, and he'd spend all week boxing training or earning money or however he used to get about, and then on a weekend he'd come see me.
And how long were you dating before he actually popped the question? And did he get down on one knee?
He never popped the question. No, he did not. He was not Mr. Romantic, unfortunately. He was telling me about his life's plan, and he was telling me, in the future, I'm going to be a boxing champion. This was when he was 17, and I actually believed boxing was going to fizzle out with Tyson. And he said, "I'm going to be the English champion, then I'm going to be the world champion, and then I'm going to marry you." And it was literally just like a few months into being going out, and I've got to be truthful, I giggled and smiled and thought, oh, you think of me.
Oh,
so
how lovely. But
it wasn't as romantic as I wanted.
He was quite shy, though, wasn't he, when you met him? Wasn't it you that kind of helped him bring his own personality out?
Well, I think so. Tyson was always more stand back a bit. Obviously, he was confident in his boxing, but other than that, he was the person that was standing at the back of the room. He was always the one that was quieter, and he was always sort of like the follow-along, where I always said, "Why are you?" And he used to stand funny as well, because always being tall, he always used to hunch over, and he said, "Stand up tall, why are you like that?" And, like, "Step forward, and why are you being shy?" And then I created the monster that is Tyson Fury today, I think. I had an input on that.
He's definitely not shy now.
Paris, one of the really interesting things that, when you were talking about researchers, you were saying that actually in your community, girls don't really sleep with their partners before they get married. Is that right?
That's right. Usually in old traditions, we're just a very old-fashioned culture of people, and normally they wait till they get married and the wedding.
And,
and would you want your children to marry into your culture and community, or would you be okay if they married outside of that?
I mean, the children's going to grow up and do what they want. I'd love to know who the children are going to marry, and we have that tradition where you sort of stay within the family, where we know who you're marrying and where you're going to live and sort of what happens. It's our traditions, it's our culture of what we do. But I mean, the children will have to grow up and make their own decisions, because we live in a modern world where we don't have it as a set law. Things can change and you roll with what goes on.
Now, what interests me is that you seem to have moved, you know, as Tyson's been successful, you seem very grounded and you've got 5 kids, but there must be at the back of your mind a dilemma about their education because, you know, if you're not travelling, you're in one place. Do you want the children to be educated in the state system or, you know, I know it's traditional for when they get to a certain age for them to be educated at home. But do you and Tyson agree on that?
Well, with the travellers, well, me and Tyson seem to have a disagreement on it. We've both sort of have these different opinions where Tyson says, I've done what I've done in this life through not following precedent, and I've just went on his own path and become the heavyweight champ of the world, very successful. And I followed the old-fashioned ways, so did he. We've come out great. So I just kind of look and think, I want to instow that kind of history into my kids and keep the old-fashioned ways of our traveller roots and our background. And it's nice to try and keep it in the family and not let them forget. And I think when travellers have traditionally left, it's to educate the children at home. It's to educate them into what you do and what your father does and what your mother does and try and keep that kind of grounded base, what we have as a family, even though we are, for say, celebrities and we have money and fame and glory, we don't let it change us because we're trying to keep that root and that base down to the ground.
Yeah, well, you've got a 10-year-old daughter, haven't you, Venezuela? And I understand she's been awarded a place at grammar school. What if she wanted to be a brain surgeon or, you know, something that you couldn't teach at home easily? Well,
we're at the middle of that. You've just actually hit us right in the middle of this because she hasn't got the place as of yet. She's just currently got to sit the test. The tests are in October and she's got to go through a test, so she's studying for it now because I'm not taking that opportunity away from her. So the possibility of her going to school is there. If she wants to go, then we're on the fence of letting her go, and then if she wants to become any of these things, it's as the time tells what she's going to do. But at the moment, we haven't decided what's a dead set answer because I do believe that kids, even if they leave education at a younger age, if it's something they want, they can actually go back and get it. I mean, I done this. I went to school till I was 11. I finished all education at 11 and came home and learned traditional values and home education. And then when I went to 15, I said I wanted to do a beauty therapy course. But I didn't just do it to the standard, like level 1, level 2. I went through level 3 to learn business and how to run a business and how to have facts of accounting and mortgaging and everything else to go with it so that you could actually run any form of business. So even though I lost out on education as a younger child, I had that drive at 15 to think I'm going to do this now because I want to.
Yeah, drive and ambition is very strong, obviously, with you and Tyson. And Paris, it was so lovely to hear, you know, this incredible love story. You were so young when you met, and obviously your husband became incredibly successful, but there was a time he spent 3 years away from the ring, and it's been well documented, and he's talked about it, with his mental health issues, and he credits you for getting him through that. How difficult was that for you to watch this big, powerful, strong man kind of crumbling before your eyes? How bad did it get?
It got to breaking point, literally, in our home. We struggled very hard with it. Tyson struggled, obviously. That was well documented. And then as the person behind the scenes, I was the only one there on a daily basis trying to pick up the pieces every time he had a breakdown, every time he had a problem. And it was crucial at the time that we was together because I think he would have just went over the edge completely. And I think it's hard for everyone to know how bad it is unless you live with that, because I didn't have no idea about mental health until me and Tyson's been together for 10, 15 years, and he's always been up and down. I think that was always a sign of his bipolar, and we never knew about it. I never knew nothing about mental health. I always just thought the same as the stigma is in the world of, oh, stop it, don't cry, what you're moping for, what you're being upset for. And now I see it, and now I really think it's such a big thing in the world, and so many people's opened avenues up so that people are understanding it more and more. Because we was at a point of no return with Tyson. It was like he was just going to go over the edge, never come back, and I didn't know what to do.
So what did you do? Because it was you, he says, kind of got him back.
I just stayed with him, basically. I stuck by him. We had times when Tyson was totally depressed, lock himself in rooms for days, like take himself out drinking for days. There was times when Tyson would talk about suicide, and all of this was ongoing, and I was sort of the only person he would speak to about it and not really connect about it, because we never understood it was a problem. It was just, I don't feel right, I don't feel right. And I was the person saying, well, what's the matter with you? What is it? What is a matter? But then once he got diagnosed, it actually helped, because we knew there was a problem.
But the impact
it didn't stop
on you,
it, but it helped.
Paris, the impact on you of that period before the diagnosis, you're on the front line, really, and it is a battle, and you've got the family as well. Has that had a long-term impact on you? I mean, what's the effect been on your mental health and on how you cope now?
I think it made me a stronger person, because I'm kind of one of them get up and brush yourself off type of people. And I think it made me stronger. But there was times when I really was crying alone, because I think, as much as I don't like to use these words, I just do think that depression is a bit of a selfish disease. It's all about the person with depression, but there's so many people around that one person who get affected. And anyone who's lived with a person, a family member who's had these deep depressions and mental health issues, you know that it grinds you down, and it's hard. And it's hard to be that strength behind that person. And it's also, you're thinking any day you could lose this person, your loved one, and you're trying to keep it together. But I was also at the stage where it seemed, I felt like a fool almost, because Tyson was out for days on end drinking at times. Yes, there was days when he'd lock himself away and just be depressed in a room crying. But if you told your friends, oh, he's been on the drink for 3 days, it felt like you'd be judged and you'd be looked at like, oh, well, silly you, why are you accepting that? Why are you taking that? But it wasn't from a drinking purpose or an alcoholic's sort of point of view. It was something that needed sorting and helped.
And also
and it was only Tyson who could change that, but I had to live with it.
Paris, even you must have had some very low moments during that time, but would you know who to go to for your own kind of help? Who did you must have talked to somebody. Who was that person in your community?
You know what? Very rarely I did speak to people. I spoke to my mum. My mum's always been a rock for me. I would speak to her, but I wouldn't tell her everything, because then it would upset her. So it was this ongoing stepping stone of upsetment and hurting people and depressions, and I didn't want to do that. So I tried to hold it together, and I didn't really talk about it. Where now I'll openly talk about it. Now I'll say, you know what, Tyson's on a low day. He's agitating me. Oh, yeah, he's doing this. And people still look and think, oh, like they're a bit took back. And I'll say, oh, he's crazy, you know. You do know he's crazy. But there's not much I can say about it.
No, but going forward, obviously Tyson's had expert help, and you talk about it, but obviously this future is unpredictable anyway, because, by the very nature of the condition. But do you think that Tyson, would you like him to retire, or do you think retirement is something he doesn't want to talk about?
I don't think retirement is something that's going to be on Tyson's books anytime soon. I think it's going to be... Sorry, we have an invasion.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Sorry. Tyson doesn't talk about retirement. He's trying to look forward to positivity, and I think he sticks to doing what he wants to do at the minute. I think he's staying with his boxing and his positive sides, and he sets goals to make himself feel better. And I think that's where we're at. I wanted him to retire after a couple of the last fights, and I just said, you know what, you've made it to the top, let's stop here whilst we're still at the top.
The talk
and
is
he said
Paris,
no,
isn't it?
He feels like he's got more to give.
Yeah, isn't the big talk now that the next fight would be Anthony Joshua? Is that actually going to happen?
God willing, it will happen, but at the moment we've got Tyson has a rematch with Deontay Wilder that has to happen. It's in contract, so I think that's going to happen. And then, baby Tyson, you must step outside for a minute. Sit over there. Aww. And he, yeah, he has that to go on. And he's also got the Joshua fight after this.
He's cheeky like his dad, look. He's hiding behind you now.
Clearly, the auntie who's watching them is not doing very well.
Listen, Paris, it's absolutely lovely to talk to you. Please give our very best to Tyson. And he's lucky to have you and such a strong family that's got him through this. And thank you for talking about it, because, as you said, the more people talk about it, particularly men, the easier it will get for other people to come forward. We've got our Stand By Your Man campaign, and this is to get people... Thank you very much. It's to get people, men in your life, talking about their mental health, encouraging them to open up. If you want any details of our campaign or any other helplines, you will find those on our website. But Paris, thank you so much.
Please. Thank you very much.
He's still there.
Thank you. So cute.
He's still there. The whole herd's going to come in soon. It's all right.
I love it.